You remember that song?
Yeah.
Friendly. I remember my sister used to play it all the time, and we'd sing it together. It's a great song, and that's what we're talking about today. I am sorry, because they are the 3 hardest words to say and really, really mean it. And that's what I want to talk about today is our communication style, how we speak with each other, how we listen. Not just a bump into you, I'm sorry. That's not what I'm talking about today. It's about words being energy and being able to focus on heart energy. I want to focus on that today. I want to focus on communication skills that lead to situations where we need to apologize, right? And then maybe someday when we learn how to communicate so much, we won't need that apology anymore. I know we can all work on communication, and we can work on making amends when we hurt somebody, and when we hurt ourselves too. The way we talk to ourselves isn't very nice sometimes. And I know that it's a practice that we can all use daily. To think and pause before we speak, and be heart-centered when we're talking, and to use our words very consciously. So it's no secret that I get the best teachers I have are my family, right? They're the ones I learn from. They're the ones that, kind of you rub up against, and they can drive you crazier than a lot of people. Maybe it's different for you, but I'm hoping you're thinking about, times in your life when you need to apologize and you have said things that you aren't too happy about. So they give me the opportunity to consciously communicate, or not, to be skilled or unskilled in my communication. So I had a chance to look at my unskilled words on last week when my grandson and the family all went to dinner. And while we're at dinner, I said, yeah, remember Eden? You guys, I've talked about him my whole, common ground years since he was born. You were with me. He's always been this sweet little guy. And always loved my wisdom, right? I could sit down and he'd come to Grandma and it would be wisdom. You know what I'm talking about, Jackie, because you were talking about your little guy. And he's 13 now. What happened? What happened? I mean, wow, it's just like crazy. So anyway, we're at dinner and him and his parents were kind of arguing, okay? And I put in my 2 cents, okay? And what I said was, well, I wasn't going to get into what I said, but I used the word entitled and spoiled. Okay. So, okay. Usually I don't do that, and he let me know that I butted in and I disrespected him. And then his mom was mad at him for yelling at me, right? So it kind of turned into this thing. And his parents got involved and they punished him and took his phone away from him. And he gave me a look, And later, I unskillfully apologized and said something like, I'm really sorry that, you were acting pretty bad, I'm sorry about that. And I went to bed that night, right? And I'm thinking about everything, and I'm looking at the picture, and it's funny because I hadn't really even picked this talk title. I mean, I had picked it before, so I said it wrong. I didn't pick it. And all of a sudden, I was looking through some things, and I'm going, oh my God, I owe him such an apology. So I had time to kind of look at what to say to him. So I picked him up from school the next day. So he walked out to the car and he gets in the back seat with his head down, and he won't talk to me, And I said, hi, Ed, how you doing, And he goes, I'm not talking to you. I'm still mad, So I said, that's okay. You don't have to talk to me because I'm going to talk to you anyway. I'm like, okay, great, So I looked him in the eye, and all I said was, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. And he just looked at me like, yeah, what else are you gonna say, And he goes, that's it? And I go, yeah. And he said, Grandma, I love you too, and I forgive you. And it was a really neat moment, because usually I think what he was waiting for me is to justify it, or to say something like, I really did this because you were acting this way, and you should be better, to your parents. I didn't see anything other than just, I love you, please forgive me. And it really meant a lot to him, and it was necessary that I say that, and it was necessary that he hear that. And that's what I want to kind of get across today. If there's things in your life, if there's people in your life that you need to make amends with, that you need to be able to say what's on your heart to. I want to talk about that a little bit, because we've used the words here, is it true, is it necessary, is it kind? And I looked at that, and I thought to myself, is it true? You know, maybe it was true, maybe he is entitled, I don't know. But it wasn't the place to say it to in front of everybody when I talked to him. So we have to ask ourselves, when you're talking with anybody, is it true? You know, because sometimes it is true, but it's not ours to do at that time. It wasn't mine to interject, right? To interject and say, you know, I humiliated him as what later on when he told me. And it was in front of everybody, and I'd always been his ally, right? And so he was hurt. So we have to ask ourselves, was it necessary? The truth is that, was it necessary now? Right? Maybe it's necessary at a time when I'm alone with him and I can sit down and give him my great wisdom. Maybe it isn't. But it wasn't then in front of everybody else. You know, and so we have to look at our words, and we have to be quiet enough. See, at that moment, I think there was a lot of chaos, and I jumped in and I spoke before I paused, and didn't come from that higher angels within me. I came from, you know, an ego perspective. So it's important that we take a breath, that we breathe in before we actually talk to anybody, and we ask ourselves, do I need to say this right now? Right now? Are these the exact words that I want to communicate? And when I look back, boy, they weren't. Those weren't the words that I wanted him to remember that I said. And then I have to ask myself, and you have to ask yourself when you're communicating with other people, is it kind? Is it compassionate? You know, when you say things, are you showing empathy? Are you thinking about what the other person might feel? You know, are you taking into consideration their feelings? See, it's about knowing which words are the most compassionate. And sometimes this means that we just have to keep our mouth shut. Sometimes we just have to be quiet. Always ask, is this kind? Inside, before you say anything. Be mindful about what sentences that you choose. You know, then I got that do-over because I have a brother who stays with me too long. He comes from Corona, and he'll visit I'll ask him over for a day or, you know, 2 sometimes, and they'll stay a week. So I finally got the courage to go, look, you know, in a kind way, I had time to pause, right? Time to just say, how am I going to word this that won't hurt his feelings, because he gets his feelings hurt easy. And I took him aside and I sat him down and I go, I love you. I want you to know this. I love you. But I need to have my space. The reason I moved out of my kid's house was I needed the space, you know, to be alone at times. And you can't stay for weeks at a time, you know. And I think he got it. You know, he hugged me afterwards and he said, I'm glad that we can share, you know, back and forth like this. And so I thought, wow, okay, I got that one right. I was skilled in my language. I didn't say, go home. And I was thinking it, okay? And it took me a while before that kind of subsided and I could say it. So many times we have this sharp tongue, and I've heard it so much, and I've had it so much. Think about in your life, have you ever had a really sharp tongue? You've said things that are hurtful and cutting to people. It's so important that we pause before we speak. Hafiz was a 14th century poet, and he was considered a wise sage among the people of his day, so they used to come and ask him questions. And one of the questions they asked him is, what is the sign of someone who knows God? And he said, they have dropped the cruel knife they use on themselves and others. That's what I'm talking about, dropping our knives, not cutting other people with our words and actions. I love that. They dropped the knife they use on themselves and others. So when I'm speaking about others, I'm speaking about ourselves too, because we speak to ourselves sometimes so badly. And then he goes on to say that when we do that, we clear this energy within us. And as our energy is cleared, when the knife is dropped, that we're guided, he said, and that there's these special forces that give us strength to operate in the world. And what I know is that dropping our knife, pausing and being quiet for a moment is really central to our health, our physical and our emotional health. And what I know is that I'm sorry are two of those healing words in the English language. The courage to apologize isn't just a gift to the other person, but boy, it's a gift to us too. I felt so much better after I had a chance to talk to Eden, and I know he felt a lot better too. You know, the truth is humans are hardwired for defensiveness, right? We get defensive, and it's so difficult to take responsibility for our actions. So it's hard to say, I'm sorry. That's really weird. You wouldn't think that it would be so hard, but it was hard for me to sit down and look him in the eye and say, I'm sorry, without justifying my actions. By saying, wow, you know, I said this to you because, you know, because is not part of it. It's just, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It takes a great deal of maturity to put a relationship or another before our need to be right. Can you guys relate to that? Your need to be right. Why do we think we always have to be right? So, an apology. I'm going to give you some tips for an effective apology. Be sincere. Be sincere when you apologize. Make sure that your apology is heartfelt. The word sincere means clear, pure, free from falsehoods or pretense. Don't bother to say anything until you really mean it, until you mean it, and the message can be delivered from your heart. The timing of your apology, boy, is that important. You know, you have to be ready. Your mad has to be kind of cooled down before you can talk to anybody, and their mad has to be too. Their mad has to be. So if someone is still too hurt to allow you to apologize, it's not that time to do it. Then you have to ask yourself, what's your intention? What is your intention? You know, hopefully it's not to manipulate, for them to understand things your way. That's not what it's about. So checking our intention before we apologize is huge. And then we have to be vulnerable, you guys. We just have to let go and be vulnerable. We have to try not to indulge in a rationalization or a justification, disarming yourself of any defensiveness. Try speaking only when it's true, when it's necessary, and when it's kind. Words are so powerful, and they take on an energy of their own. That's why when I had Robert sing the Ho'oponopono prayer, and I would love to talk about that someday. It's too long to get into, but it's such a beautiful, deep, deep practice. It's an Hawaiian practice of forgiveness, of cleansing yourself so that you can cleanse others. It's an inside chant of those words. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, forgive me. Thank you, I love you. And they keep saying it over and over and over. And if you go onto the internet, you can find the history. It's a beautiful history of it. And they talk about a physician who actually healed his patients by healing himself with those words. And it's a beautiful, beautiful practice. See, our words are prayers. Our words are prayers. They're energy that go out into the world, and they form, and they create feelings, and your feelings create emotions, and your emotions create what happens in your life. That's how important words are. Sometimes we don't even get that. There's a show on Netflix I just watched last night. It's called Heal. I don't know if you guys get it. Have you seen it? And it kind of speaks to this. It's about healing our bodies and healing. They talked about, basically, it's about the words we use. It's about the feelings and the emotions that we have in our head heal our body. And I think Joan Borisenko, if you know who she is, she wrote, we have used her quite a bit. And Soul's Compass, she wrote the Soul's Compass, and she kind of has a demonstration on there. And she said, you imagine this like juicy lemon, right? Like Sharon's lemons that she brought, and you cut it, right, with those lemons you brought. And you cut them in half, and you squeeze them, and they're nice and juicy, and you pull them up here, you know, to your face. All of a sudden, your glands start to salivate, right? You start to feel it. See, just from the thought of the lemon. And so she talks about that. She says, so your thoughts change your body chemistry. That's how important that this is. Our thoughts create our whole reality of who we are. And this whole Netflix series has Deepak Chopra, it's got Joan Borisenko, it's got some really good people on it, and they're talking all about healing ourselves by healing our thoughts, by our emotions. And it reminds me, I think they mentioned on there, you can be like this really healthy, energetic, exercise person, a vegan, just all, healthy as ever. But if you've got this crummy attitude, and you're unhappy, and you're talking bad to yourself and to everybody else, and then you got a person that eats nothing but greasy French fries, and they're a happy camper, that actually the studies show, that's okay. You know what I'm saying? That it'd be nice to have both, I think, really deal. But what I'm talking about is that this is more powerful. Your thoughts, your emotions, the way you feel, what you project out in the world is more powerful than what you put in your body. Wow. That's pretty huge. And the science kind of backs that up. So, the truth is that why does that work? Why is our words, so important? Why do we pray for each other? And the truth is, it's because we are connected. When I pray, and I pray, make my warmth and love throughout my body, it heals you. And that's kind of what Ho'oponopono is, a little bit. Tim Freak, who I wanted to see, was actually here last week down in Encinitas, and I missed him. But he says why Ho'oponopono works is something like this, that we have this human divide right now, distance and language and religious beliefs and class and economic divide, that the power of Ho'oponopono comes in large part from the fact that it's the one rare thing that the vast majority of humanity are in agreement about. Those words, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. Those words are in every single culture, right? And so they feel them, and as we all feel them together more and more and more, we can change not only ourselves and our friends and our family, but we can change the world. And that's what this is about, because we are connected in this collective consciousness. So the more that you put out there, it isn't just for you, it's for the world. And that's what I'm talking about today. It's time for us to put down the knife. It's time for us to quit gossiping. It's time for us to quit hurting others and hurting ourselves. It's time for us to be able to go inside and to tap into that collective consciousness and send out the love that you are. That's what this whole talk is really about. It's about tapping into that beautiful level of awareness. That is the God level. That is who we are. It's time to put down our knives. May our words be conscious and heartfelt, and when they are not, may we apologize to ourselves and to others. So as I close, please repeat after me. Love in my heart, love in my home, love in my community, and love in my world. Thank you.